What's actually happening inside your feeder on a hot day and why your birds already noticed it. It is the middle of July and the feeder is full. You filled it this morning the same way you always do. Lifted the lid, poured the seed, set it back. 30 seconds. The same routine you have done 100 times. But right now, in the heat of a summer afternoon, something is happening inside that feeder that you have never thought about, and your birds have already noticed it. They noticed it before you did. Some of them changed their behavior because of it days ago. The summer feeder is one of the most misunderstood things in the backyard. Most people think of it as a static object, a container that is either full or empty, clean or dirty, useful or not. But what is actually happening inside a feeder on a hot day is biological, chemical, and in some cases genuinely dangerous. And the birds in your yard understand this in ways that most people who feed them never do. Welcome back to Backyard Bird Mind. Subscribe before you leave, because what you are about to learn happens every summer, at every feeder, in every yard, completely invisible to the person who filled it and completely visible to the birds who depend on it. Stay until the end, because the last thing we cover is the reason certain birds have already stopped coming to your feeder this month, and it has nothing to do with what you think. Number 1, your feeder is fermenting, and your birds can smell it.
Seed in a hot feeder does not stay inert. On a July afternoon with temperatures in the 80s or above, the interior of a plastic or metal feeder can reach temperatures well above the ambient air. Sunflower seeds, millet, safflower, the mix you poured in this morning, begin to degrade. Oils in the seed oxidize. Moisture trapped inside condenses on the walls and collects at the base. In humid conditions, this process accelerates dramatically, and what began as fresh seed becomes, within 24 to 48 hours, something closer to spoiled grain, with elevated mold spore counts and, in some cases, the early stages of fermentation. Birds have a sense of smell that was badly underestimated for most of the 20th century. The old consensus was that birds relied almost entirely on vision, that smell was minimal, vestigial, irrelevant. That consensus has been overturned. Research published in PLOS One and supported by studies at multiple ornithology labs has shown that many common feeder birds, including house finches, American goldfinches, and sparrows, can and do use olfactory cues to assess food quality. They can detect the chemical signatures of mold and oxidized seed oils, and when they detect them, they leave. What this means for your yard is specific. If your seed has been sitting in a hot feeder for more than 2 days in summer heat, and birds that were regular visitors have stopped coming, they are not in a different part of the neighborhood. They have assessed the food and found it unacceptable. They are somewhere else, at a cleaner source, and they will not return until the situation at your feeder changes. Number 2, mold in summer seed is not a minor issue. Aspergillus is a genus of mold that grows readily on grain in warm, humid conditions. It produces compounds called aflatoxins, which are among the most toxic naturally occurring substances in the biological world, and they are not visible to the human eye. A feeder that looks slightly damp and smells faintly musty is not mildly off. It is a delivery mechanism for a substance that can cause fatal respiratory disease in birds.
Aspergillosis, the disease caused by inhaling Aspergillus spores, is one of the most commonly documented causes of death in feeder birds. It hits the respiratory system hard and fast, and birds in the later stages often look lethargic at feeders, fluffed up, slow, before they disappear. What you are seeing when you see a bird sitting still on a feeder in summer is sometimes illness, and sometimes that illness began at the feeder itself. The birds who avoid your feeder in the heat are not being picky. They are applying a calculus that has been refined across thousands of generations. Spoiled food is never worth the risk when there are alternatives. Your birds know this, even if you do not. The ones still coming may be the ones with fewer alternatives, not the healthiest ones in your yard. Number 3, Water at a summer feeder is more critical than the seed itself. On a day above 85 degrees, the physiological demand on a small bird is significant. A black-capped chickadee, weighing roughly 11 grams, loses water continuously through respiration and through the surface of its feet and legs. Unlike mammals, birds cannot sweat. Their primary mechanism for thermoregulation is behavioral, finding shade, reducing activity, panting in extreme heat, seeking water. Seed provides calories, but no moisture. In summer, a bird that has been feeding on dry seed at your feeder has an active and pressing need for water immediately afterward. The distance between your feeder and a water source determines how energetically costly your feeder is on a hot day. If birds have to travel far to drink after feeding, some will simply choose a site where food and water are closer together. A bird bath within 10 to 15 feet of a feeder is not decorative. It is functional infrastructure that makes your feeder worth visiting in July when it might not otherwise be. Moving water matters more than still water in summer for two reasons. First, the sound of moving water carries. Birds in dense vegetation, 40 or